Bonjour, everybody. Minnow Nogshig. Miigwech for joining us tonight. We are at our last session of our 2-week series of these webinars, and we've been having great turnouts. So we have an hour today, this evening. So miigwech for taking an hour out of your time to learn, to help students to learn in this journey with us. When we were brainstorming this idea of this series, that we really wanted to highlight kind of an understanding of what Indigenous students go through on a regular basis. The struggles, the traumas, the celebrations, all of those that non-Indigenous educators and people of the public may not know. And you have these students sitting in your classrooms every day, and we just really wanted to share that with all of our educators, with the board, with the community, because they are different stories. And we wanted to highlight these voices because a lot of the time, those voices are not heard, they're not seen, and they're kind of just told to be quiet. So we really wanted to highlight that during these sessions, and over these 2 weeks, we've heard so many great voices, and there's no better way to end it off with our presentation tonight. So we will go for about 45 minutes, and there will be a question and answer in the chat, the question and answer box in the right there. Please feel free to put questions in there, and our presenter will work on answering those for you if he can do so. I apologize, I didn't even introduce myself. As a Minnow Nogshig, Inadwan Jashko Iwai Sikwa Nadijna Kaz, Bekedranang Nadunjaba, Mako Nadodam, Ikinamaga Zadendel, Meanwhile, Anishinaabe Kwandel. My name is Joan Shognosh. I am the special projects teacher for the secondary program for Lambton Kent District School Board. I come from the Kidronong territory, and I am Bear Clan. I'm newly into this role, and it's really amazing to see what I can do and what I can help bring to our teachers, to our students. And it's this firsthand knowledge that we are really been trying to promote and help our educators. So miigwech for taking the time tonight, and to our presenter, Dennis Nigon Whiteye is here to present, sharing his path and his struggles along the way, as well as his celebrations and the work he does. So I won't take any more of your time. Miigwech Nigon for taking the time with us, and take it away.
Bonjour, Kenawea, Ninda Imanida, everybody, entire family, friends, and those who are, new to some of these things that we're going to be talking about. I'll introduce myself, and we do this as best we can in our language. I heard Jawan say those things in the language, and that's acknowledging not just this platform of Zoom, but all I'm taught. When we say Ninda Wemanidakan, that it encompasses the entire being, our spirit, family, everyone in spirit that's all around us. Nigani and Dijnakas, Makwando, Dem, Bakedranang, Nahi and Dunjaba, Kiji and Nishnabi, Nin, Nishnabi and Dao, Etigo, Bungi and Nishnabem. So I've introduced myself in the language there with my clan and where I come from. Nigani was given to me at birth by my aunt, who's passed on. I'll talk more about what that means later, but it does mean in the front, or that leader. But in my story here this evening, I'll share a little bit more about that. That makwa, when we're in creation, we're taught that we're sent, through our in Anishinaabe ways, anyways, the family's father's lineage carries down, and those spirit helpers come down. So I absorbed my father's clan is the Bear clan. And that Dunjaba is translated to the I'm from the elements of, if you take our DNA of First Nations people, it's the same as this this continent that we live on. You know, that North American continent's the same DNA from that territory. So we say Ndunjaba, I'm from the elements of. Moccasins is you know, that place just south of Sarnia, there, Walpole Island First Nation, and on my father's side is the Moravian Town First Nation. And this sign behind me, you see, is Kiji Anishinaabe Neen, and the jacket I'm wearing here, and trying to plug the program that I've been so lucky to be a helper in this work and engaging men. I'll start back, you know, into the way I'm going to talk about, you know, the way my path rather, growing up, being in, you know, First Nation setting, and then we were in the States quite a bit. I went to school in Port Huron, back and forth. And I have two video clips that I'm going to share. I'm just going to wait. One's just a, you know, a 4-minute trailer for this docuseries that I've been involved with, and the other one's about 12 minutes of this program here that I've been doing for a long time now. So, you know, I was originally born in Detroit, but my family comes from Walpole Island, and you know, we were you know, in a place, I guess, where my parents would be chasing income and resources and dollars, health, economy, education, just like we do today. Generational thing. One thing that you know, I always knew, especially in the States, it was a really a distinct thing to have your race or your ancestry as your label, you know. And I can remember, you know, in the early grades, I went to daycare and kindergarten on Walpole, but then we had moved to Port Huron, and I was in grade 2 over there. I actually skipped a grade. I went from kindergarten right into grade 2 over there, and I can remember the kids already sounding out words, and I had to catch up. I still passed grade 2, not being able to read. Going into grade 3, black teacher who I'll never forget, Miss Collins, sat me down and she said, "Dennis, I'm going to teach you how to read." And she stayed with me until I could read. So then we moved back to Walpole, and grade 4, 5, 6. You know, I remember where that distinction wasn't like it was in the United States. The simple border of Michigan, you know, the kids and the teachers and the neighborhoods were not as prevalent the way it is in Canada here. It's reserve, non-reserve, especially on Walpole Island, where you're bussed into those grade 6, 7, and 8s in high school, and the growing up, you know, and seeing, you know, a lot of the traumas and the abuse that we see in our First Nations communities still today, you know, desensitized me. Where I had this ego that was built, and nothing's gonna hurt me. I'm Indian, I'm Native, I'm Mish, I'm tough, and you know, that kind of really unhealthy way of thinking, and a lot of it pointed at the non-native faculty, schools, police, all of those things that, you know, they're not like me, so they're different, so they don't agree to the things that the way I see things. That didn't get me very far. I was in trouble a lot with the police, the Walpole police. You know, we bomb cars and, you know, steal things and break into cottages, and really wild, and it says it in the video, you know, just looking for that attention, you know, wanting to be acknowledged for our physical abilities more than anything, because we weren't using our mental. So my parents, I believe, you know, seeing these things happening, and we moved to Moravian Town, where I don't want to say they're better behaved in another reserve or anything like that, but it would just seem to get me out of trouble, out of that core group of I'll say it, badasses that I was rolling with at the time. And you know, I started a better focus with my hawk eventually, start to prove myself as a responsible young man, getting a license. And all the time, we were still traveling and going on our powwows to weekends. We were attending powwows throughout the Great Lakes area. And the more I traveled, and we weren't, by any means well off at all. We were, very poor. I was the oldest of 8, and there was no questions asked how in our families. And you can ask my brothers and sisters. I raised them and had a key piece in their upbringing. Um, and I was spiteful about that for a long time, until I had my own children, and then I changing diapers and knowing about teething and cooking at such a young age. I had a lot of responsibility put on me at a very early age. And I'm not blaming my parents for anything. They had their struggles, they had their hurdles, and their path that they had to heal from, and are still healing from, as we all are. But I'll talk a little bit about my dad, who was a residential school survivor. He was in that mush hole, they call it, in Brantford, and that that, that crack on the head that I would get sometimes for looking in the fridge at the wrong time of day was something that I didn't understand. And being being punished the way I was punished was something where I can remember telling myself at just a young guy, I'm going to get this guy. That's my dad. Can you imagine thinking that about your dad? I'm going to get this guy when you're big enough to fight back. So it wasn't until years later where I started to hear and listen and learn, my aunts and family, and even extended family would share. Well, even dad, that we got sent away. Um, okay, and then, that would be the end of the conversation. On my mother's side, she was too young, but her sisters, all my other aunties, they were also what they called sent away. So I'm wondering about this at the time, and I'm thinking, what the heck does that mean, sent away? And I learned, it was the residential school. They got sent to residential school, and that was the uh, the description of it. But when you ask survivors about it, they were taken. My dad was tricked into that car. Um, my my aunts were, told that there was a better way for them, and they were going to a school, and they could go home, but none of them really got to go home. They stayed there for that duration of time. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners have heard of, the traumas, just horrific tales that come from that time in Canadian history. We're just now shedding light on, those people able to share that story, and um, in efforts of healing. I do my best, even in my tone of voice, when I talk with my children and my wife and my community, to make sure I want everyone to know I'm in a kind place now. I don't carry those burdens that I think made me very angry at one time. In my early teens and into my 20s, being very just absolutely reckless, violent, and um, drinking and drugging. Where during these times of traveling powwows, I was abusing my gift. I was going to these events for more than just those celebrations of life, what they're intended to be. I was carrying a lot of stuff that I didn't even realize. So it would just be about me going through the process, um, and in efforts to get to the next one, to continue. And um, I was offended. A lot of went to Trent University, and a lot of people had heard of this champion fancy dancer, Dennis Whiteye, who gets paid to get drunk. And that kind of, stuck with me for a while, and I didn't really like that. Um, but who were they, right? I'm Dennis Whiteye. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to compete here. I'm going to do this, and I'm not hurting anybody. I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm the man. I'm the boss. Really ego driven. So um, in comes the rock bottom with addictions and alcohol and drinking underlying behaviors where I need help. I have to find out, what is it that's going on here? How come I'm making these decisions, and it wasn't supposed to be like this? Life used to be so easy and good, and I had all kinds of cash, and went anywhere and did anything I wanted, and didn't matter if they were talking good or bad about me, as long as they were talking about me. All of those kinds of really sick up here, Um, so I dried out. I had to quit everything, and it was the love of a partner, of my female, my wife, my female side, my duality, and I didn't go to a treatment center or service or anything like that. And it's funny that I fully believe in it. I have a lot of friends and family that have gone through residential treatment or different programs. Um, but all of these things that I'm sharing here would lead me to what we call the that thirst dance, that tree of life. I attended Sundance, and I was just going to this trip to Manitoba to just check it out, and this is about 2010 now. I'm talking around a long time, sharing my age now, but when I got there, my brother had this eagle bone whistle, and he says, I waited for 2 years for you to get here." And like a baby, I cried. I didn't know why or how, but the emotion, that indescribable connecting of spirit, man, I just let it all out. And I knew right then and there, I'm going to make that commitment to sacrifice for those days, without food and water, and do that sun dance. That's what that's called. And dreams and vision and all of these things come to you, and it's been something that since, I did my 4 years up there, and then you have your giveaway and you become that helper, that Shkabewas, and, forever putting teachings and tools around your belt to share with those seeking that healing. And since then, we've brought it to Southern Ontario, and, there's a couple lodges that are being birthed, that have been birthed, because of that experience that some of us have had. And when I got there, I got to share with everyone, I had, just like everyone, you assume and picture things. There was so many non-native there, outnumbering the Anishinaabe, black guys, some South American people, and all colors were there, and they're all doing this work, building the lodge and camp, and the sweats and the teachings, and uh, you know, it was told to me by the Sundance chief, this is for everybody, this is, yes, run and done through the gifts that the Anishinaabe have been given to run that Thunderbird Lodge, but it's not specifically it's for everybody for healing. So it just, clicked my eyes where I figured, in my life I had really, again, ego-driven sense of identity, knowing this much of what it means to connect to spirit. Yes, I could sing and dance and travel around, and I did very well. But when it come to looking at the self and being part of ceremony, I found that love again. Just like when I was a kid and I was told, "Oh, Nigani, you're a really good dancer. We love watching you dance. Get back out there." Wherever we were, it was really extended family kind of stuff. And I found that again in this Thunderbird Lodge. And the work that we do here at this agency in that LOSA, I run the men's program throughout the calendar year, pre-pandemic. We have our feasts, we have our stuff that happens throughout the year here. And I remember, when I was young, coming to the Namarine Center, the other one down the road here, and I was so excited to see my own people. I was so excited just because I knew, there was going to be, maybe our music there, maybe I just understood, these are going to be people that they laugh like me, they're poor like me, they have the same environment that I have, and it was just that connecting with that, you really don't know how to describe, other than you're happy to see someone who's of the same, and not judging you for your level of income or your status in society, you know. And I'm seeing a lot of that now with the men that I work with. You know, they're mandated through the parole and probation board, where there's really no effort to heal in the system the way it is now. It's, this is what you've done, shut up and do your time, and then when you're finished, you know, we'll let you go. Well, that just ends up being repeat offenders and stuff, where our Indigenous approach is about looking at the behavior, you know, and that connection to their belief system. Because if you don't have a strong belief system, well, then your behaviors are affected, and then your identity is affected. So we have to really look at that identity piece with our men who are continuously in and out of jail, and probation and domestic things, all of those things that struggles of an urban setting. I've been talking now for a few minutes. I'm going to jump into this this video about. I think it's a good segue into the Kijé video. I had these Fanshawe video audio course call me up one time here and asked if they had anything for them to do. And the old Kijé video I had was from 2007 that I would share with probation and parole and schools and stuff. And the light bulb went off. Why don't I do my own, something about this place and the way I run the program here? And they followed me around to a couple little community events that I was emceeing or at or whatever, and they got some footage and put together a little 12, 14-minute video. I hope Rod taught me well here. I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Okay.
Sgoli Ludligny Wajani Niogets Ahnoani Wakitalo Onyat Aga Niwagohonjoda. My name is Luke Nicholas. My spirit name is Ludligny Wajani, and of the Turtle Clan of the Oneida people. I'm really glad to be a part of an organization like Adlosa Native Family Healing Services, particularly proud of the Kijé Anishinaabe Neen program. I am a kind man. It has made significant inroads in working with our male population, in bringing that healing, the treatment, and helping them build and foster a greater self-confidence to participate in a healthy way with their families. I think one of the major things that we deal with in our communities is that organizations like Adlosa started really to support families like women, particularly women and children. So many of our programs prior to the Kijé program were intervention services, they were prevention services, therapy services for women and children specific. But we didn't look at the whole family. The male, oftentimes in the history of looking at domestic violence, we looked at the male as being the predator, but never looking at them as the victim. And so now we have to expand our understanding of family and bringing that harmony back to the family. Bringing, we could remove the mom and the children, but in the end, we've done nothing to solve the problem and to deal with this long-lasting issue, which plagues so many of our families in our community.
Daniel Cabez, Indigenous Mongando Dem, Jibwe Mami Nishnabe and I'm Raymond Deliri and I'm the Executive Director of Atlosa Native Family Healing Services. Here at Atlosa Native Family Healing Service, the Kije Anishinaabe program has been a fundamental component to the overall program and service delivery that we offer to the Indigenous community, ensuring that there are equal opportunities and services provided to women and men within our communities, and that at the center of all of that is ensuring that there are safe environments for our children. So the Kije Anishinaabe program provides a safe place and environment for men in our communities to gather and to talk about ways in which we can learn to become good men in the community, to share cultural values, and to be able to ignite fires within each other, to be able to stand up for those most vulnerable in our community. The program aims to promote awareness of ending violence against women and girls within our community, but that's also part of our natural role as men and as helpers to be able to work within our own communities and within all of our Indigenous communities to support and honor women. And that's something that is based on our fundamental values and principles of being Anishinaabe, of being Hongwe, of Lenape.
Bonjour, Ani. My name is Ali. My spirit name is Misko Mikishmo Nin, which means red sunrise. I am a Baha'i from the London community, and I've been coming to Atlosa about 5 years now. What I found is important for us to live with the spirit at all time, because we have two natures, the lower and the higher. And you have a choice to live with either one. But the more we're in touch with higher nature, the more we can practice those virtues, those values that Creator has given us to all with no exceptions. And I'm very happy to come over and to be part of the Kije Anishinaabe Inn and keep learning and sharing those teachings with my own community.
My name is Dennis Whiteye. I'm the Kije Anishinaabe Nin coordinator here at the Atlosa Native Family Healing Service, and I'm proud to say I've been doing this work for since the origin of its launch. Atlosa Native Family Healing Service was chosen as a pilot site for the initiative 7 years ago. The men's program, Kije Anishinaabe Nin, is an effort to engage men and boys in our Aboriginal communities to speak out and end all forms of violence towards our women. You know, we're in a time and place now where our roles and responsibilities as men are coming back to our communities and coming back to the responsibility that you know was been a challenge for many years. Atlosa's a violence against women agency, and recognize that you know there's an effort that needs to be put forth with our men is huge. The program is you know, for those who are mandated by the courts to take a 12-week program. At the same time, our community members are involved, and it's had such a positive ripple effect in the area here. And I'm so fortunate to have you know, the men be able to take part in our extra curricular community events. The missing murdered Indigenous women staff that I'm standing by, you know, the men in our program, you know, we created this, And every year, our families are acknowledged and honored by putting one of the feathers of our sisters on this Eagle staff. The fact that there's now Kizhi Anishinaabe Nin right across the province, makes me proud to say, I was here from the beginning and knew that this work was important and made it my commitment to this agency, to this initiative, to the work that needs to be done in our communities and lifting up our men and helping create that identity, helping to create that sense of pride again in our responsibilities as the son. We mimic our lives after that son whose work is consistent. Without question, he rises and supports life every day, and that's how we need to be as men. And that's from our elder at the beginning of this launch of Kizhi Anishinaabe Nin. That comes from our elders panel that sat on this initiative. Where we go from here, I think it's a positive in the city here. A lot of people now know that Kizhi Anishinaabe Nin is part of the Atlosa Native Family Healing Service, and whenever Aboriginal representation is needed, they're reaching out to our agency and that reconciliation of finding out, and we're able to share our histories and share our teachings and share our stories with mainstream and service providers, shareholders, and those who are in the outreach work in the City of London here. So, like I said, it's known on Wednesday evenings, our men's group gather. Full moon ceremonies, our men's groups are there. Any events throughout the city, our participants are, lifting up that bar and becoming that Kizhi Anishinaabe Nin again. Miigwech.
I'm Kevin Broadbent. My spirit name is Spotted Horse. I'm from Rainy River First Nations. I grew up in Timmins, Ontario. I was adopted at birth. I grew up in Timmins. I was taken from that culture. I feel like my identity was taken, my purpose was taken. Before I found the program, I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't know where I was from. I didn't have any answers. After I found the program and I met Dennis, we were able to work together and we found what reservation I came from, and I was able to find my mom and meet her for the first time. It helped me reconnect with home. It helped me discover my culture. Reconnecting with home helped me discover who I am. It helped me find my purpose. I have 5 beautiful children, and I'm bringing that culture back to them. And that has become very important to me. But when I met my mom and she told me about my family and where we're from and the culture that was destroyed when an Indian Act came through, it just became more and more apparent to me that my purpose was to bring my kids home, to teach them what I have learned through this program, and share it with everybody. But most importantly, it's about that journey home. And I don't think I would have found it without the help I had here. It opened my eyes to the culture that was taken from me, and I wanted in. I wanted I wanted to be part of it, and I didn't know where to start. And Dennis and the people at Atlosa, they always involved in the community, and there are always events, and they always need helpers. And I was told that's how you start. You start by showing up, and you help, and you learn to use your gifts. And I was taught that our gift is our ability to take care of one another and to feel compassion for one another. There are ceremonies and social events and drumming and dancing, and my children looked at it and they just wanted it so bad, and it called to them, and they're all dancing now. My sons are drumming and singing, and that means so much to me to see them wanting to do it themselves. I don't think any of that would have been possible without the people here.
Okay, that last bit there, Kevin Broadbent, that was one of the most emotional things I've ever, and beautiful things I've ever work-related got to see and experience. Seeing a man meet his mother for the first time, and they chose to come here to Atlosa to reconnect, and he's from Rainy River First Nation up near Kenora, Lake of the Woods, Whitefish Bay area. And he is, you know, one of those guys who had suffered high anxiety, just always there as a helper, you know, as a Shkabewis. And I really am grateful, because when I watch that video again, I'm reminded how I remember telling him, you know, all of us, you know, we're just helpers. That's how you start, and then you'll see your gifts, and you stay focused on that and work your gifts towards helping our communities, yourself first, and your family and your community and your nation, you know, all the way out. That ripple effect, you know, that's kind of some of the words we use in the program, and in the community, and healing, you know, that drop of water in a bucket, it ripples out when you're doing the work for yourself. I don't see anybody, and I'm hoping everything's still rolling smooth and you can hear me and you can see the video clearly. And you know, we're just skimming the surface. Oh my gosh, okay. On a lot of the things, you know, it's some of our listeners will have questions, and just because we're here this evening for a quick 45 minutes and then question answers after does not mean you can't connect with me and have follow up or network together. And you know, we'll do our best to shed some light on some of the uncertainties. You know, it's one of those things that it's a constant. You know, there's so many people in a city the size of London here, where, you know, a lot of folks don't even know that residential school existed. So many folks that are in positions, important positions, that will call a place like this and ask for a land acknowledgement. And it's where we're looking for this this time of truth and reconciliation, where shouldn't you know whose land the original inhabitants are of this? I know whose land it is. Why would I want to acknowledge it in your event? You should be able to give that acknowledgement, and not just as a scripted checkbox format. You know, mean it, you know, and say it from the heart, and say it from spirit, and say it with respect. we have a long ways to go. I see it's 7:37. I want to talk or share this other video as well. You know, and all of my struggles, you know, the healing, growing up on a First Nations and still having the gifts and being able to say, you know, I'm really lucky to sing and dance. And I remember, you know, my own community, Native kids, First Nations kids on the reserves I was growing up on would ask me, how do you know how to dance? How do you know those songs? And I didn't know. You know, I'm really lucky that I had that since I could walk, I'm told. And I would ask them, well, how come you don't know? And, you know, that systemic hurdles, colonization, however you want to describe the things where families are separated from that that way of life and existing and being a part of is, you know, coming back. I always say it's not gone. We're taking it off the shelf, just like that Etigo Bangi Anishinaabe. You know, I only know a little bit of that, and I'm going to keep working at it so that my kids are better and that there's better teachers than I behind me. And I know a lot of our educators probably feel the same. Anyways, this video, I was asked by a film crew in Toronto to do be part of a series, a docu-series, and there's all different cultures throughout Canada that are being talked to, and it's called Move, but it's not just oh, this is Native dancing, and then this is Polish dancing or polka or East Indian, all the different cultures that are being used. They got deep into you know, the history of my life, the struggles, and the successes as well. And I was sharing with you know, some of our folks before the Zoom started here, you know, how emotional it got, where my wife spoke on there, and I didn't get to see that part of it. They wanted the most genuine production that they can get, and they didn't want her speaking to something I want to hear. So I'm still, you know, just the fact that I haven't heard what she had to say keeps me excited, motivated to see the finished product here. And they're forever doing their editing and putting stuff together. I don't know how it's going to look, but I was the first of 7 episodes, so we'll see how it goes, and I'll sing it loud and proud when the final piece is complete and it's put out there. But I'm going to give you the teaser, or the trailer they called it. My name's Dennis Whiteye. I am of the Anishinaabe Nation. I'm Bear Clan. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and raised on Walpole Island. Having been raised a First Nation at a young age, there were hurdles, there were struggles as a young person. We were, you know, very mischievous, in getting into trouble, climbing cottages, bombing cars with apples and shingles, and wild and carefree, just wanting that chase. In our community, our family was very poor, poverty. You know, we didn't have much in regards to money or a nice home or a car or anything like that, but I was always reminded by my parents how rich we were with our culture, and that being of song and dance. Dancing is a form of expression and identity, and it's a connection to our spirit realm. Powwow way of life is a gathering of nations, an opportunity to reconnect with family, extended family, and create new relationships. Fancy dancing to me is something that I'm very grateful for. I'm told my family, my father before me, his father before him, were all fancy dancers. And this expression of dance, also known as the war dance, is something that I've understood since the time I could walk. Dancing at powwows is something that I've held dear to my heart all my life. My name's Dennis Whiteye. So I still get emotional, that last little line there, because it's from the heart, you know. I remember, you know, they were so poor. That's all we had, you know. We knew on weekends, if things worked out right, we were going to be going to a powwow, and didn't need any money to be at the powwow because they fed you there and you can camp there. You just need some gas money to get there and back, you know. And that was the mentality at a really young age. And you know, I hold those values even through my my reckless years. You know, I always you know, I think I did what I had to. We made sure, you know, before we got in the car, we'd light that medicine and, you know, ask for a safe journey and return home back to our home fires and our houses, and to be respectful, and going to the communities that we were visiting when we were traveling the way we did. And those little things, you know, that we share with our children in our communities now, it goes a long way. You know, having that self-respect, you know, it's okay to let others know that you have respect for yourself. And sometimes it's as simple as, you know, putting out tobacco at a water, at a tree, at an occasion, you know, putting out a feast plate for a member that's passed on, starting to, you know, get those teachings from our grandfather, Anishinaabe, 7 grandfather teachings. We're at about 7:44 now. Was there any questions? I see a question number 1, or it's lit up there, number 1 in the Q&A.
Which that one was when you were asking if you could still hear you. So
Okay.
Miigwech for sharing and being so honest and open. And, you know, you said like it came from the heart and sharing your heartaches, and kind of saying, you know, we're all healing. There's trauma that Indigenous people historically have been through, and not just the survivors, but the intergenerational trauma that has happened. And, you know, even all of those stories, we've heard lots of stories now, but you sharing, you know, how you got the opening the fridge at the wrong time. I haven't heard a story, and that makes sense because they weren't fed. You couldn't open a fridge at all. There was specific times that they had to be fed, and that's real, and that those things happen and you endured it.
Yeah, that's like I said, I'm just skimming the surface on those things that you know, the terror that when I was, say, roughhousing one of my siblings or something, I'd get sent to the room to wait. That wait was the worst thing that I've ever had to, you know, I just get it over with. What's going to happen? You know, that waiting. But it was, you know, like I said, later in life, sent away. Oh, sent to, that's the stuff that was put on him, you know. And for me to, at one time, want to get him when I'm big and strong to fight back, you know, it was just something where I love that man, you know. I'm grateful that he survived that, you know. And I'll sing that. I'll share that every time I can, you know, to share those stories. Back to the truth and reconciliation piece, though, he did have a role. There was a meeting here in London with all of the churches, you know, the Anglican, Catholic, Presbyterian, all of the different sanctions, and he told them, you asked us as residential school survivors 20 years ago to do this, and I shared these stories with you. You took your notes, you asked these questions, open up the wounds, and put it on the back burner. Nothing happened. So I'm going to ask you specifically, what are you doing to create truth and reconciliation in your life? And he went to the next one. What are you specifically doing? So those are the kind of things that I'm asking right now when I get asked to do a land acknowledgement. And I understand, the jobs and the statistics and data that need to be collected and check marks and this and that. But, are we really doing the work if we're not doing the work?
Oh, exactly. That
Yeah.
makes sense. If there's any questions from our participants, please add in the question and answer. But I do have one. So you said as a teenager, you were reckless. How was your education through high school and any further with that? Like, how did you deal with education?
Well, it was as native and in high school, I was really lucky. I had some awesome peers. Christian Shagnash was one of my buddies who, he had that ability to, my Nigan Indigenous cause. Christian is a leader too. Just the way he was able to, he was the president at the time when I was in high school, and he didn't let something like being an Anishinaabe stop anything he believed. And I was lucky he was my friend. So I also had my hard rock and rough Walpole Island friends, and then my hockey playing junior hockey players in Wallaceburg. So there was a time where I would see that I have to live a balanced life, and at occasions, or young people gather at different things, there'd be different crowds, and you weren't trying to be choosing one or the other. You wanted to be that one who could get along with everybody. And I'm really lucky. I had some extended family, my brothers, growing up, those guys that had positive influences, and it was because of his upbringing. Sugar Bear and Bah, that man. I was in a serious car accident, and my Aunt Mona a couple of weeks ago reminded me, you're still lucky. You remember when you got brought that medicine, and to walk away from a head-on collision. I was told I danced again right away in that year, and so many people just acknowledging and saying you must have had some, strong prayers and strong medicines. And I'll never forget that stuff he brought, and it was at my bedside when I woke up. Anyway, that stuff's real, and that was for me. And just like my path at that Tree of Life, I had to do that. I don't promote it. I don't try to sell it, nor do I have to defend it. That worked for me.
Miigwech, and even you're sharing, we don't know who the participants are. And even today, you sharing those stories. That's good medicine. And to hear your triumphs after that and how you made it out of that recklessness is empowering. And not only to our educators, but to our students, and to understand, hopefully our educators will have a better understanding of what maybe our Indigenous youth, not just boys, but girls, just generally, because you said your sisters, these are things that these are real everyday occurrences for our people.
We all, even my elders, they all have that time in their life where they were in that wandering stage, and as my children are teenagers now, I don't want to be the ball and chain or the strict crack on the head residential school dad or anything. So I'm forever finding that balance and letting them know, I'll give you that freedom. That self-respect is huge right now. And I don't want my children or any of the children in our communities to have to say they went through this crazy cycle before they hit a rock bottom and started to, look for the self, and it's things like this, there's really no excuse for our people not to be involved in supporting and sharing and being involved. There's so much going on. All of the places here that reach out, Indigenous or not, we serve our communities.
We do have a couple questions here. It says, if you could give educators some advice about engaging with First Nations youth, what would it be? And what do you wish educators would understand?
That's a 2-year course, but generally, I would just have it. I think a lot of our children are in that shell. They don't think they can open up and talk. Say, and they're in a new classroom, and the teacher's new. And that role of the teacher is to be open and friendly and everybody, and they know everyone and everyone's their best friend. Well, our Anishinaabe children, because of these cycles of intergenerational trauma that have been passed on, they're not going to open up that easy. So you have to be able to understand and find that common ground. And maybe it's asking, do you know your clan? Do you know your family lineage? Do you know what your Anishinaabe no swin is? Those things about connecting are so important. Your name, your clan, where you come from. Then you're going to start to see that they're okay. You really are interested in my spirit. You really are interested in who I am, not student number 3 in the 3rd row from the back with the dark hair and dark eyes and dirty jeans.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's how a lot, I think, even as
Mm.
we've been going through, a lot of us have connected with, because as Indigenous people, we've been there. We've not been seen, and you've been overheard, or underheard, underlooked, and it's common. So just to give, as teachers, to give them the time, because a lot of the time I'll see that they'll just go on to the next one. And but to
Well,
give them the time.
and unfortunately, that's the academic scenario. Everyone's in rows, and there's one speaker at the front. What if those desks were in circles, and instead of that pyramid of whoever memorizes the most of the lesson gets the highest mark is at the top of the class, kind of thing, where everyone in that class has a gift. We have to find it. And it's probably more than a 2-year course. I would love to take that course. If anyone ever runs that program, let me know.
Yes. So we have another one. It says, as a male educator, I am wondering what supportive actions you believe would be helpful for our young male Indigenous students.
Well, I've seen and learned, and that rite of passage. We have those stages of life in our existence, in our path here. The infancy to youth to that wandering stage of young adult into elderhood. That's just the 4 brackets, but there are ones in between there to create the 8. There's 8, and each there's a rite of passage, whether it's a ceremony or a role of responsibility that comes with that, and those things are absorbed through attending Indigenous functions. I think non-native educators, male or female, have to be in a place where they're not intimidated to go to an event. You're not going to be shunned away. You're not going to be scalped. You're not you're not in danger. There's troubled people in the communities, yes, but there's also beautiful things going on in that community that are open to everybody, and that seems to be a huge barrier. Even are we welcome to go out to that? Can we go to that? And it's a barrier, and those kinds of things are just assumed too much. Oh, that's not for us. We can't do that. Where I'll just share real quick. I used to go into the jail here at Elgin Detention Center, Exeter Road, and the men were being mocked as they were getting brought out of their cell into this chaplain area where I was allowed to burn medicines and we could smudge, and I had my feather and our stories and a board, and like they come down and they're like, oh, this guy's saying, oh, you're kind now. Now you're kind when you can come down here and burn that good stuff, and mocking them. And it went on for a couple months, and I didn't say nothing. And then one day I asked the chaplain, I said, the priest guy that is in charge of that room, instead of having the guards mock these men coming down here for their well-being and being in fear, because that's what it come from, why don't they come in here? Why don't they come and listen? Why don't they come and share? What's wrong with them coming in this? Before I started going in there, I was told you're never going to blemish the guard inmate relationship. However, I tried. I said, they're welcome in here. They can come in here. But things like lockdown and security and protocol trumped anything connecting to healing or spirit.
That's a great answer. And, it's okay to be uncomfortable, and our non-Indigenous friends need to understand that, and that we're always willing to share, and we're always willing to lend a helping hand, and to, if they have questions or they're curious. Anishinaabe people love to share and welcome everybody in tons of different functions, and that it may be uncomfortable for a bit, but that's okay, and you'll get through that. And
I swear we say these things. Our events, our ceremonies are all based on generosity, and we'll hear those MCs and people will say that's why you don't see rich Indian people. They give everything away.
Yeah, it's always, that's how I was taught.
Yeah.
Was that wealth isn't what you have, it's kind of what you can give away.
Not from material gain, it's where those things will come to you as needed, and that's where we've come a long way. We weren't talking about these things 15, 20 years ago, the duality, the balance, all of that stuff that is now shedding light, and not just the role of men in the work that I do, but how it affects the entire community.
I got a question. It was really good to hear you speak, Dennis. We've been we shared the dance arena for over 20 years, and it was it's always good, and to be in your presence, because you're such a kind man, and and I learn a lot from you. I always have, right? So, but one of the things that I'm curious, because I know you had a tough lifestyle growing up, and there's been probably a lot of things that you had to struggle with, with dealing with your dad in residential schools, and having that anger built inside you because of probably not understanding, and probably there's probably many things, but there's a lot of kids that are out there that had that harness that anger of their lifestyle, not knowing because of what that intergenerational trauma is. How do teachers how do they recognize it, and how can they help their students? I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think with the effects of intergenerational trauma, the students don't even understand. So what's a few ways that they could do? Would you suggest reaching out to the community, the families?
Well, there's so many people now that are I don't want to say qualified, but have gained the knowledge to run SWET, having those young people there, even if they're just playing around, they're by osmosis picking up that energy, picking up those things, where sooner or later that responsibility of gathering that wood, tying those things together, knowing why those ribbons are hanging, knowing what that crescent moon stands for, all of those little things are there to eventually them being the Shkabe was bringing in the grandfathers and grandmothers. And during that process, things open up, that honesty that's created in that time and that place, that truth that's created in that time and that place. There's nothing else to understand but to dig it out. And there's some people that that I know that are really good at having folks go back to that inner child and heal, you know. Giving a role, simply put, you know, you give that role to somebody where they're now that helper. And we heard it in the video where he didn't know anything, or Kev was just out there, and next thing you know, he's one of the best fire keepers in Shkabe's and building and, you know, doing stuff. And then he is able to conquer those things that he was carrying. And I think it's the same for, you know, myself. I think it's the same for other kids that are unaware that they're carrying it. I really like how you put that, because it's the next generation coming up. They don't know why they're like that. You know, they don't know why that little bitterness is there and where it's coming from. But if you give that role and responsibility with those fire teachings and water teachings, if they're women, and you know, my daughter's gone and done that strawberry, her strawberry fast, and she was my teacher. I didn't know any of that stuff, right? And she was just my teacher, and made her that lodge. And, you know, we have all of these young Anishinaabe Quaywood going through, and boy, are we in a good place, you know, with these women that are not only following academics, but, you know, their spirit, they're connecting, you know. And we've always been told, Dal, Jawan, you know, that the toughest thing is to be Anishinaabe and live in both worlds, eh? But we have it where, you know, our men, young men, are having that opportunity, you know. And I think that's as simple, the roles, you know, giving them that role to be there and pick it up, because eventually they'll share why those feelings are there, even if they don't know why now. It'll come.
Chimigwech, Dennis, I really appreciate your words, and I sorry to jump on the camera. You're doing a great job. I just wanted to say miigwech for myself for being a part of the series, and take care. We'll see you again, Pamopi.
Oh, Chimigwech Nekanen, my brother there. Yeah, I'm glad to help, and Yigdal, Jawan, Rod probably has it now, but any follow-up of anything anyone wants to go out. We've just skimmed the surface, right? I'm sure this whole week has been just skimming the surface of so much that, you know, this puts tools around belts and creates awareness. And I'm happy to continue with anyone that wants to connect.
Well, Chimigwech, we appreciate that, and you taking your time out to share with us, and all of the great teachings and knowledge that you bring, that we can continue. Like we said, we skim the surface, and I know we're over time, everybody, but I appreciate you guys taking that time. And any questions, concerns, comments you have, you can forward them on to me, Dallas, or Gretchen, and we will get Dennis to come and help us again if that's what we need. But miigwech, everybody. I appreciate this. Has been a great learning opportunity for all of us. Even, you know, it's meant for our educators, but through this, it's helped me so much. It's bringing that Indigenous knowledge to everybody else, right? In this pandemic, I don't get to see a lot of people. So when we get this, it's really heartwarming, and it's really good medicine. So Chimigwech, Nigani, I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I got to say miigwech to you, because now, you know, I gives me the ability to talk to these things. And when else do I get to talk to them unless I'm with, you know, an environment of people that are going to listen. But even in the men's program, I thank them, you know, because the things that I've been lucky to gain and still gaining, you know, I thank them, because this is giving me the opportunity to talk to it. And I can't talk to it if I'm not living it, you know.
True. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, Chimigwech, I hope you have a great evening, and we will be in touch.
Awesome, you guys. This has been great. Thank you so much. Miigwech.
Bama P.
Mama.